Плюсики. Все нормально. Сейчас я передам слово Надаву. Он представитель Matomy. Вкратце я немножечко расскажу про нас. Меня зовут Александр Кузнецов. Я представляю Matomy в России и также представляю револьвер маркетинг компанию. Мы часть фонда Импульс. У нас много разных технологий, в том числе в мобильном маркетинге, в вебе. И сейчас хотелось бы спросить, кто-нибудь уже присутствовал на наших вебинарах, которые мы сейчас, может быть, кто-то заметил, проводим достаточно активно много вебинаров. Поставьте плюсики или минусики, если не были. Плюсики, минусики. То есть, в принципе, у нас довольно много новых людей. У нас в записи будут вам тогда мы вам отправим вебинарчики. У нас Google, у нас был таргет Mail.ru, у нас будет ВКонтакте, у нас будет Mopap проводить вебинар. И, соответственно, мы вам все эти материалы пришлем, так что оставайтесь с нами на связи. Сейчас я передаю слово Надаву, он наш гуру по продвижению в Facebook. Сейчас он Надав, please. И вебинар будет на английском, мы затем его переведем попозже. Поэтому кто может слушать на английском, здорово. Кто не сможет, мы его переведем, пришлем там недельки через две переведенную версию. So, Nadav, please take your time. Nadav, are you here? Сейчас посмотрим, здесь ли он. Okay. So please take a microphone.
Hi, everyone. This is Nadav Weinberg. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. Can you just put a little plus if you can hear me okay? There we go. Perfect. Wow, lots of people. First of all, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you especially to Alex for a very nice introduction. Just to give you a very brief background about myself, my name is Nadav Weinberg. I lead the social team both on Facebook and Google on the sales team here at Matomy. And I've been working for over 2.5 years within Facebook specifically and have quite a bit of an experience. I was part of a company called Matomy PMD that was acquired by Matomy over 1 year ago, and have been at Matomy since then. Very briefly, to take a look at who we are and who is Matomy, we were founded in 2007. We are currently publicly traded on the London Stock Exchange and are not only the largest online advertising company in Israel, but also rated as one of the top 5 CPA networks worldwide. Our hub and where I am speaking to you today from is here in Tel Aviv. Our hub in New York, in the United States is New York. You can see many of the other hubs that we have around the world within the Bay Area, Mexico, Denver, Florida, Berlin, Munich, Madrid, and with our acquisition of MobFox within the past month, we also now have our European headquarters within London and Vienna as well. And of course, we have Alex out in Russia. So Matomy, we are in many ways a one-stop shop for everything that you're looking for, from display, mobile, video, email marketing, and everything in between. Obviously, today we're here to talk about within social and Facebook with that specifically. As I mentioned, I've been working with Facebook directly for the last 2.5 years. And in those 2.5 years, Facebook has changed dramatically. In many ways, Facebook initial advertising and what it was 2.5 years ago was one really nice game portal where a lot of developers were creating great games within Facebook, as we call Facebook Canvas games. and CPIs were quite cheap, starting at 50 cents in even top tier one geos, United States and UK, for example, and then started to scale and scale over time. However, as Facebook has improved the platform and their ability to track not only what users do, but also to an ROI level, so how much users are spending within each application. And obviously, with the release and improvement of their mobile advertising over the last 2 years, we've seen a shift of more and more companies and verticals outside of gaming move to Facebook. And as more and more of these companies and verticals are very engaged within Facebook, the prices continue to go up. Right now, we are in the middle of November. Thanksgiving in the United States is just a week away, followed by a tremendous amount of shopping online, as well as the Christmas and holiday season. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of users engaged with Facebook, as well as advertisers trying to reach the correct audiences. So this is something that we want to talk about today. How can you utilize Facebook right now when it is the premier place to reach the correct audience, the premier ROI in terms of your return on investment that you can get as a channel? How can you leverage Facebook specifically? So looking very briefly at Facebook and their monthly active users, and these are all based off of Facebook's Q3, which was just released within the last month. We see that there are over 1.1 billion monthly active users just on mobile. This is an astonishing number, and it's makes Facebook Mobile one of the largest channels available for user acquisition. Taking a look another step further, a little more closely, we can see exactly with Q3 how mobile continues to grow so significantly as well. Looking at mobile only stats, we're able to see that Facebook is currently at 450 million users. This is really interesting as more and more users are not even logging on to Facebook on their desktops or onto their laptops. They're only logging in through their tablets or through their mobile. So one of the things that we see is it's very good to advertise to users both on desktop and on mobile to get them engaged. And as a developer, to be able to target your users and keep them more and more engaged on mobile, where ROI is also much more improved. Looking at a few more statistics and kind of continuing the growth that we've seen from Facebook Mobile, based on the just 1 month ago with the Q3 reports, we see that mobile advertising represents, it used to be 50%, it is now 66%. So 2/3 of Facebook's revenue is within mobile. Beyond that, Facebook apps, which would be Facebook and Instagram specifically, are about nearly 30% of what people do on mobile. So of all the time that users are on their mobile phones, they are on Facebook and Instagram. And when we include the WhatsApp purchase by Facebook recently, it's nearly 40%. So that's a pretty astounding number in terms of the amount of engagement that we see by users. And as we mentioned, sorry, there was a jump there. As we see, in addition to everything, we see that there's 24% of all referrals to news and entertainment sites on mobile are from Facebook. So Facebook is far beyond just a mobile platform for games. It's also very engaging for other verticals such as news and entertainment, branding, and e-commerce as well. One of the focuses that I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about is within mobile gaming itself. As I mentioned, that Facebook has evolved from, in many ways, a gaming portal with Facebook Canvas games, those being the games directly on Facebook from just a couple years ago. Mobile is where more and more of users are going. We can take a look here, and the first thing that I want to point out is that still the king within gaming is with the video game console. We can see that this number continues to increase. However, the second number that we see to increase is within mobile gaming. This is by far the largest percentage that is growing, and directly we see a decrease in handheld video games, as well as PC games decreasing slightly in terms of their growth. One of the things that we like to notice and point out here, why is this happening? In our opinion, and what we tend to see within the industry, is that within smartphones being smarter and being able to do more things, to be more sophisticated with better screens and being able to process more, they're replacing the handheld video games, as well as being able to now play many of the PC games on your phones as well. And it's not just the phones. With comparing the handheld video games of, for instance, the PS Vita and the Nintendo 3DS, we see that more and more of those users are moving to tablet, where they can have one device that they can carry with them, maybe not the tablet, but at least their smartphones, and to be able to take their smartphones with them on the go, and not only be a phone and their text messaging abilities, but also the ability to play the games at a very high level as well. Here we see highlighting the United States and in Russia. We see that Mail.ru group research found that the mobile games market in Russia has grown by a factor of more than 9 times from 2010 to 2013, representing $165 million. This is also very, very true within the United States, as we expect mobile app revenues with games specifically to hit $5 billion by the end of the year. And this isn't just a statistic that we have observed in the past, it's also something that we expect moving forward. It's a huge opportunity. It's one of our largest areas of growth, and many of our partners' areas of growth is looking forward in terms of the engagement on mobile, both for gaming and outside of gaming as well. So, looking at what we're here to talk about specifically outside of these statistics is the 3 pillars. And as I mentioned, that we've been working with Facebook. We've been a Facebook partner for many years. We've been working directly with Facebook for over 4 years. And these 3 pillars that I'm going to talk about and are the core of what this webinar is about is what we have learned and how we execute our campaigns that we work with. It's not just something that is nice to talk about, but it's something that we have been refining and we have been focusing on, and we've been trying for years to be able to find the right way to make it happen and to create great value for our partners. So looking at the first step, we look at choosing the right audience. As we mentioned, there's over 1.1 billion mobile users on Facebook every single month, 450 million that log in just on Facebook every single month. There's so many different ways to target. You can target by age, you can target by gender, you can target by what their interests are, what pages they have liked, what their wealth is, if they're married, single. There are literally thousands and thousands of different ways to be able to target users. So how is the right way? Where do you find the right audiences to target specifically? So taking a look at casual gaming, the first thing that you notice on this graph that jumps out to you is, and I see that there are a lot of questions that are starting to go on the left-hand column within the questions. Please share your questions to the very end once I've finished everything that I'm talking about. And then at the very end, we'll be able to go and answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for that. So going back to the graph over here, the first thing that sticks out is the amount of pink. And the pink is obviously females in this demographic, in this chart. And so within casual gaming, we see that the focus Let me bring this up here. The focus tends to be in this area, which is 30 to 40s year old women, 40, 45-year-olds. So we see that this is by far the most engaging demographic. And aside from the fact that nearly 80% is female, about 20% are males as well. Secondly, is that with you still see a fair amount of engagement within the teenage areas. We see that 18 tends to be a very engaging time. The reason for that is that it's the first time that someone can have a credit card, especially in the United States. So being able to have a credit card and purchase at that point on your own and not having permission from your parents, we see that people tend to spend a lot of money. And actually, the largest growing demographic on Facebook is the 45, 50-year-old and older demographics in this area. These are users who often tend to not log into Facebook all that often, but when they do, are very, very engaging. So this is, if you're a casual game developer, we really recommend that you look in that 30 plus for the sweet spot in terms of the best monetizing demographics. Shifting our focus a little bit to more strategy and core gaming as well as poker, we see the shift go in exactly the opposite direction, where it's nearly 70% of males and about 30% within females here. We can also see that the age demographic is much younger as a whole and much less in the 50 plus year old. So in this demographic, we also see that in the late teens, early 20s, a tremendous amount of engagement here. So we see in general the 18 to 40-year-old range within poker and strategy games tend to be the most engaging and best place to target. Taking a look specifically within Android versus iOS, we see that the cluster is very heavy within here. Android as a whole tends to be much more male heavy, while iOS, as we'll see in a minute, tends to be more female heavy. So in this, we can see in the 20 to 35-year-old range, the more core demographics of card, battle, RPG, strategy, arcade type of games are here. And even slots machines, which tend to be very engaging and much more female oriented on iOS, are right here in the neutral column, even shifting a little bit to male. As you can see, I want to focus again on the 20 to 35-year-old range. So Android users tend to be a little bit younger to be able to see there as well. Comparing this, as I mentioned, with iOS, here we see still a focus within that core engagement within the 20 to 30-year-old range on iOS and more male focused. But when we take a look at, let's say, either casino or poker or slots, which if you remember, slots was pretty much where the casino or poker was on Android, here it's a much older demographic, over 45 years old and much more female. We can also see social turn-based such as Match 3, which is right here as well. And these type of games tend to be more female focused within iOS. So if you're an iOS developer, taking a look at the layer of your game or the skin of your game, making sure that it's maybe geared a little bit more towards the female demographic. Taking a little bit of a focus more into the branding and e-commerce side, something really interesting here that we see is that men engage much more with deals and coupons, while women engage more with the brands and Facebook likes. So while men are more likely to take an action with an ad, to download an app, or to be able to engage with that somehow, the women in general that we tend to see are more focused on liking or sharing a brand's images and different things specifically within fashion or news as well. One of the really amazing things that we look in Facebook, and we'll talk about this in a minute as well, is within within being able to do something called day parting. Day parting is breaking down the specific time of day where you are able to launch an ad. This is being able to launch it only during a certain period of time or to launch it during all times except for a specific period of time. For instance, only targeting from 1 until 3 p.m. So during, let's say, 12 until 3 for lunch hours, or being able to target everything. So let's say 5 a.m. until 12, and then 3 until 4, and being able to target around those hours. So having that ability is very powerful on Facebook. Here we're looking at gaming, media, and entertainment specifically. And one of the really interesting things to see with this graph versus the one we'll show in a minute is that it's very, the increase of usage continues throughout the day until right around 7, 8 p.m., which tends to coincide perfectly with dinner and then children going to bed as well, usually after dinner. So a great time to engage if you have a game, media, or entertainment app, a great time to advertise would be usually during the day. However, at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, let's say, and moving onwards, this is usually the time where you want to focus a little bit more if you're oh, there we go. If you're have a productivity or utility app specifically. So this is exactly the opposite, where it's not so much engagement through the day, but right at 8 p.m. until bedtime at 12 or 1 is where we see the prime usage hours during the day for that. So one of the ways that we engage and really focus our Facebook ad campaigns and recommend for you to do as well is within the day parting to bid. Let's say that you have a productivity app. You don't want to necessarily bid a tremendous amount and spend a lot of your advertising dollars between 5 a.m. and let's say 5 p.m. These 12 hours are much less engagement by your users, and people aren't really looking for that as much. But once people get off work at, let's say, 5 p.m. and onwards, the increase of their usage is quite significant. So we don't recommend pausing campaigns, but rather decreasing the spend specifically during those times and then increasing the spend during the hours. So Facebook has really improved their day parting ability, and we really recommend for you to take a look at that. If there's one thing that I really recommend for you to take away from today, it's this slide and this discussion that we're going to talk about right here. It's pixel everything. It's incredible to me that there are still so many advertisers out there that are not focused on exactly everything that happens down the line of their application. You can have many issues in terms of conversion rate drop-offs or issues with monetization and people not paying. And being able to see how those correlate and how those come from specific ads is so very, very important. And this allows you not only to benchmark your KPIs, your key performance indicators. So let's say your second day retention of wanting it to be over 45%, or your ROI goals, your return on investment of over 20% after the first month. Having these benchmarks and these KPIs is very, very important. And the only way to be able to hold a partner of yours accountable, or even to be able to see how well and successful you have been, requires pixeling everything that you're doing. So taking a look at the next slide, here we have a sample ad from the game Heyday by Supercell. For instance, if someone, let's say I was to click on this, I'm on my phone, I click on the ad, install now, it takes me to either Google Play or to the App Store. What this does, once you've pixeled this, you then send a post back to the app itself, and being able to see to the ad itself, to be able to see that this ad was responsible for this install. Sorry. Taking the next look, and the next step is, now that you've downloaded the game and you're playing Heyday, for example, you then have the ability to purchase and the ability to make an in-app acquisition, maybe more coins, level up, whatever it may be that's going on there. This ability also, if you're tracking correctly, you can see not only which ad which ad is responsible for the user to download, but also which ad is responsible for the purchase that's going on. So this gives you the ability to say, on a CPI, a cost per install, paid, let's say, $4 for this user to download, but we also see that that user just purchased $5 worth of coins within my game. So this means that your campaign is ROI positive if this is the only install that you had, for example. This is so very important, especially when you're talking about scale and you're looking to A/B test and try different images and different targeting, which is something we'll get into in a minute. The next step, once you have someone who purchases, they become part of your CRM, they become part of your database specifically. And here are three different things that we really recommend that you focus on specifically. Oh, sorry. That's the next slide that we're looking at. So looking at lookalike audiences, when on Facebook, there's something called custom audiences. Custom audiences are in many ways replacing Facebook Exchange or Facebook's ability to retarget users. Custom audiences are your ability to take all of your users that you have and all the different people who've installed your game and to be able to retarget them in different ways or to find similar types of users to those people. This is exactly what lookalike audience is. Exactly what it sounds like of a lookalike, someone that looks the same, is, for instance, you can upload a custom audience, which is going to be a list of your different users, and to be able to say, these are my 5,000 best users that I've ever had, and to find similar types of users to those individuals. This is exactly what lookalikes are. It's a very powerful ability by Facebook and also one of the newer targeting abilities within Facebook as well. If, for instance, you have users who are very engaged or people who use it a lot, you can also target those type of users specifically as well. Day parting we mentioned previously in terms of targeting users during specific times of the day. And partner categories is been a game changer in many ways for Facebook in terms of being really the first online advertising platform to use third-party offline data. And this is specifically where you're going to see in the United States, the UK, France, and Germany. Facebook has partnered with Datalogix, Axiom, and Epsilon to be able to target, to permit you to use third-party offline information or even online information for specific areas. So while, let's say, gaming tends to be a little less strong in this area, if you're looking for, let's say you are an e-commerce brand selling new iPhones or different types of laptops, or even a rental car, I'm sorry, a BMW or Mercedes-Benz, and you're looking for people who leased your cars within the last 3 years and haven't taken a new lease since then, you have the ability to find these people within your partner categories. You also have the ability, for instance, to target first adopters or people who purchased online. So if you're selling the new iPhone 6, your first adopters are the perfect audience for you to target. So these are people who were some of the first individuals to buy new products as soon as they were released. As you can imagine, partner categories are absolutely fantastic and a great way, also with insurance and finance, if those are your verticals, to use Facebook as well. So as we mentioned, you already paid for your users, you already acquired them, and now how are you going to keep them engaged? How are you going to retarget them per se? This is pretty much the same chart that we had before, but as you remember here when I mentioned your CRM and the users that you already have, you have the ability to re-engage them back to the app itself. We talked about, and let's move to the next slide here. We talked about custom audiences briefly. Facebook is an incredible ability. I want to go back just one second. Facebook is an incredible ability when you look at this entire funnel. Nope, sorry. There we go. Facebook has an incredible ability to complete the marketing funnel. And by that I mean that if you are using an advertising on Google and search, maybe Yandex or I don't know, affiliate traffic or other areas outside of Facebook as a larger online advertising presence, you now have the ability to retarget all those users regardless of where they came from on Facebook specifically. So this is something that is incredibly powerful with Facebook. I mentioned custom audiences just a little bit ago. And just to explain a little bit more of how they work, if you have someone's Facebook ID, their IDFA, so their identifier for either Google or IDFA specifically for iOS, for iPhone, or if you have email addresses or even phone numbers, you can retarget these people on Facebook, these users of yours, or people who've submitted leads to you, to be able to recontact them, to re-engage them on Facebook. So this is a very, very powerful way. And as we talk about completing the marketing funnel, this is incredibly powerful. Taking a look at app engagement, which is something that Facebook defines. This is Facebook's terminology is app engagement. Many know it better as deep linking, is a great ability to use a custom audience. So let's say users who deposited 3 months ago, but haven't returned and deposited since. So the ability to re-engage those users, you would upload a custom audience directly to Facebook. You would label it, for instance, monetizing users from 3 months ago. And then you have the ability, and these people who have played the game or your app and reached a pretty far level within it, most likely don't want to go and start at the very beginning. They want to start off at the place where they ended last time. Maybe they couldn't beat a boss because they didn't have enough coins. And so maybe your ad says 50% off free off coins for, or let's take a step back. We miss you, 50% off free coins, come back and play again. Something along that line with an ad that user has maybe even played the last level that they had played or the boss they couldn't beat, and giving them the ability to come back to that ad, come back to your app and be able to play. So this is incredibly powerful of re-engaging users who you knew were very good and very engaged but haven't engaged with it since. One of Facebook's most recent abilities and targeting abilities, specifically within retargeting, is something called website custom audiences. And this is something that's incredibly powerful and something that we use tremendously. It's something that when we talk about completing the marketing funnel, I like to kind of go back to this and talk a lot of how the Facebook really completes the marketing funnel, but it's very, very powerful. If you are using search and affiliate traffic and you have many people who are coming to your website, you now have an ability to retarget the people, even if they didn't submit a registration or purchase or anything like that. You now have the ability with the website custom audience to retarget those people on Facebook. So we can help you place a JavaScript pixel in the header of your website. And then any user who comes to your website, we can retarget on Facebook. And this is going to be users, for instance, and we can retarget them, anyone who just came to your website. Or this can also be someone who, let's say, added, if you're an e-commerce brand and they added 5 different things to the cart, but they didn't check out, you can then retarget them specifically on Facebook. Even though maybe they came from search or they came from an affiliate, you can then retarget them on Facebook with the images of the products that they had in the cart. So let's say that someone clicked on a banner that you had run in search or in the Google Display Network GDN. That person clicks on that ad. It takes them to your website. They say, oh, these high heels are great. They add them to the cart, but for whatever reason, they don't purchase them. You now have that person with a website custom audience. You can retarget that specific woman on Facebook with an ad for those high heels, the same high heels she looked at. As you can imagine, especially for e-commerce and for branding, this is something that is very, very, very powerful. So previously, and one of the things that I mentioned that is very powerful and that if there's one thing that you take away today, it's about pixeling everything. When it's something that occurs on Facebook, we have the ability, I'm sorry, when it's something that occurs on desktop, so let's say a Facebook Canvas app or even to your website, we have the ability to send you a pixel, a JavaScript pixel, or to integrate server to server that allows you to see what users are doing down the funnel as well as following installs of what's occurring. This gets a little more tricky once you get to the mobile side of everything. And this is since there's no ability once it goes to the App Store or to Facebook Play, you don't have the ability to be able to use our pixels or anyone's pixels in general who may be a Facebook agency. So this is where you have the specific ability to integrate what Facebook calls an MMP or a mobile measurement partner. And what's very important about this, and maybe some of you are using the Facebook SDK, and we very much recommend that you integrate with the Facebook SDK. But the problem is that if, let's say, for instance, you were to run yourselves internally and you were to run with Matomy Social, you wouldn't have the ability to know which users Matomy Social brought and which users you had brought. And beyond that, you wouldn't be able to say Matomy Social has brought me 150% ROI while I've delivered 100% ROI. You have no ability to see, you just see everything in one big group. So this is where the MMPs come into play that give you the ability to optimize all the way down the funnel and to be able to see exactly what's going on within the app and specifically which ad they came from. So as as a Facebook partner and working very closely with Facebook, we have the ability to integrate with several different partners, and these are the four that Facebook has identified as not only mobile measurement partners, but in general tends to be the most accurate. AppsFlyer is most likely our preferred partner because they tend to be the most accurate. Kochava and AdX are also very, very good. Adjust is many of our partners are using Adjust, but we would recommend one of the other three before Adjust in an ability to relate in-app actions that are occurring specifically within monetization to pass them back to an ad level. So either way, these are ability to integrate with these and see exactly what's happening inside your app and which ads they came from. And then what this gives us the ability to do is to A/B test different images and to be able to see which thing, which demographics we're targeting and which images are working the best. This segues us very perfectly into I'm sorry, it keeps skipping around for some reason, into the next step of mastering creatives. I mentioned before that we've been working with Facebook for a long time, and creatives used to be very simple on the right-hand column and within the news feed were quite simple in terms of using, let's say, the snipping tool or doing a very easy, simple screenshot of a game and being able to then use those as your images. The problem is that as more and more people are advertisers, Samsung and Nike and Adidas and L'Oreal are all flocking to Facebook and spending millions of dollars every single month, there's so many different ads that an individual can see at any one point in time that you need to make sure that your ads stick out as much as possible. We've also seen, and specifically within Facebook, I'm sorry, within mobile, on Facebook is something called image exhaustion. Is you have a split second as someone is flying through their newsfeed to be able to grab that individual's attention with a really eye-popping ad and to say, click on me, this is the new game that you've been looking for, click on me and download my game. So this is something that at Matomy we work very extensively. We have a 8-person graphic design studio that is always creating new ads. Every single week we upload new ads for each of our partners, and the ability to not only keep image exhaustion fresh, but to introduce new ideas. Sorry, it keeps skipping for some reason. Here we have a perfect example. The first image on the top, here we go, this one, was one of the first images that we ran for one of our bingo partners. It's pretty accurate to what the game looks internally, but as you can see, it's rather basic. And this is something that a couple years ago was very effective. You see the big call to action in the middle of Play Now. But as more and more users are more and more advertisers are on Facebook, everyone is expected to increase their game to become more impressive with the images that they're creating. And so what we've really worked with our graphic design studio, and we recommend that you do these type of things in general. This is actually built up from many PSDs that we layered one on top of the other. You can see this still has very accurate gameplay of what the game looks in itself. There's still the call to action. But instead of a very basic background, here we've layered in a turtle in the background, a palm tree over here, and the coins that are layered into a 3D image that are actually jumping out at you. So as you can imagine, when you scroll through your newsfeed very quickly, this ad jumps out much more and is more engaging than this ad is. And this is something that we've been focusing on quite a bit and something that we highly recommend that you do as well. Another step, and when we talk about tracking and pixeling everything to the ad level, you have the ability to try different banners and images, as well as different borders around those images. So what we did, and once the image gets exhausted, or maybe we start to see that at first the CTR, the click-through rate, and that's how many times people are clicking on the ad versus how many times it's shown as an impression number. Once that starts to drop, then we try to do different things with it. And we will try, let's say, for instance, this has a red border versus this has a blue border. And the blue border in this case didn't work quite as well as the red border. The red border tends to pop out a little bit better. But having the ability to track what's going down the funnel of the game, to be able to see that these users not only installed the game, but actually reached a further level and purchased, you're able to see which ad created more money for you. So that's very important for you to do. Taking a look at another partner that are example of ads that maybe you are a more core gaming type. We tried several different ads, and we will always try several different ads as an A/B test. In the first ad, you can see that there's a very sexy girl here holding a gun. And in many of these, they're obviously the name of the game and different calls to action as there are here. Pick your battle, play now, whatever they may be. This ad had a very high click-through rate, which means many people were clicking on it. I'm sure you can imagine why. But the problem is that while, let's say, the CPI, the cost per install, was quite low because there were so many people clicking on it, once they proceeded through the game, they realized that this was not very accurate of what the game was. It didn't look like this, and that there wasn't, the ability to be this specific.
Раз, раз, раз. Слышно? Да. Что-то Меня слышно? Поставьте плюсик, пожалуйста. Ага, слышно. Ну, видимо, сейчас оборвалась связь с Израилем. Сейчас мы все починим. Перезагрузится. Ох, слышно. Ага. Все, всех, видимо, выкинуло. Окей, давайте, все. Я отключаюсь. Надаву слово. Hey, Nadav, you can continue.
Hi everyone, sorry about that. Our internet kicked us off there for a minute. Sorry about the technical problems. I believe this is where, can you give me a plus if you can hear me? Okay, perfect. Great. So let's say, for instance, that you are here. We have a much higher, just, I'm not sure where it left me off, so just quickly going over this slide one more time. If you have a more core gaming, or just in general, one of the things that we really recommend is making sure that you are very representative of the game that you have. So in this instance, there's obviously a very sexy woman holding a gun and a nice call to action, pick your battle. And by the way, there's always a call to action and the name of the game and everything else within the other images that we do. And you should have those as well. However, in this specific image, there's obviously a very high click-through rate, which means many people were clicking on the ad. But the engagement down the line of the users of what they were doing wasn't so good. They realized very quickly they couldn't be this specific woman, and they couldn't engage in the same way that they wanted to with this image, or what they may have thought the game wasn't so much that way. So while it had a very good click-through rate and was very cheap in terms of the CPIs were much lower, but there was very little ROI that came back. Very little money was made from the ads themselves. So in what we did is we kind of went back and we layered several images on top of each other, as you can see here, into what it looks like if you're actually playing the game. And while it had a little lower click-through rate, and then the CPIs were a little bit higher, once users started playing, they knew that this is what the game was going to be, and they were much more engaged. The second day retention was much higher, as well as the ROI being much higher as well. So this is something that we highly recommend that you take a look at, is not just focusing on a high click-through rate, but also, sorry about that, but also making sure that users are going to be engaged as well. As I mentioned before, you have the ability to place different borders around your images. This is a perfect example of different images that we used here, different borders that we have. Actually, again, the green one worked a little bit better than the purple one. It kind of popped out just a little bit more in terms of the image itself. But it's a really great ability to try different images if you also don't have that many resources, such as where we have 8 different graphic designers that say it's just yourself. Then, building your own images every time takes a lot of time. Try putting different borders around, and that tends to increase the quality that you see. But make sure, as I've said before, that you're tracking what you're doing down the funnel of the game to the different ads to see which ad is working the best for you. Very briefly, this is not only one of my favorite ads that shows many of the different characters layered on top of each other in PSD that looks really nice, but it also shows what the in-app game looks like. So this is the in-app engagement. And so when a user clicks on this, they don't expect this to be the game exactly. They know that it's going to be this. So these type of images are very, very good as well. And obviously there's always an area for 130 character description. So text is becoming less and less versus what it used to be on Facebook, as well as the images becoming bigger and more engaging. And just one last thing is that there's a very strong Facebook rule of no more than 20% of the image itself can be text. Here you can see that only this little tiny part
is where the logo is of text and there no more text in the whole image. So make sure that you abide by Facebook's rules of 20% text or less in each image, or your ads will actually be disapproved by Facebook. Circling back to the choosing the right audience, the first pillar that we discussed specifically, uh, there's so many different ways to target on Facebook. There's so many different options. How do you choose the right one? And specifically, what if you have several different audiences that you're looking to target? How do you know which is the right one to target? And how, beyond that, how do you know how to target different to each specific audience? For example, let's say you are selling the new iPhone 6. We mentioned how important it is to pixel back to the ad, so I obviously hope that that's something that you will be doing. So let's say you have 3 different users that you know, or types of demographics that you know are going to be your ideal engaged type of demographic. The first, for instance, is, let's say, techies who are in the 18 to 35-year-old male range, age range, and most of them tend to be males. So the way that you would advertise to these type of users obviously is going to be quite different than the way that you would advertise to parents who, let's say, are 35 to 45-year-olds, and many stay-at-home mothers who are constantly looking through their Facebook newsfeed. Maybe they're looking for a new iPhone for themselves, or that their child really wants a new iPhone as well. And the last, for instance, would be business people, let's say 30 to 60-year-olds, both males and females, who are looking for a new type of phone, the new phone that's out, and maybe they care more about emails, more about multitasking, while parents care more about different utility apps or games. And techies are very much focused in terms of like business people multitasking and those abilities. Well, once you have the ability to link everything you're doing back to the ad level, you can try different images for techies versus different images for parents, let's say. So an image you may want to use for a mother may show more about gaming, or have different images within the iPhone 6 or the calls to action that you use, or the text that you write about are things that are going to drive more specifically something about how it keeps their children protected, that it's a GPS everywhere they go, or the functionality of being able to FaceTime if it's an iPhone 6, and how fast FaceTime is for different people to use. Business people, obviously, you have an ability to try different ads to reach the business people and to optimize which ads are working the best that may focus more on productivity, on email, how quick it is to be able to also maybe FaceTime your partners in Russia while you're in Tel Aviv. So these are all the great abilities that while you have one product, there's so many different demographics to reach that you have the ability, let's say you are targeting the US, you have the ability in this instance. And with an iPhone 6, you have techies to target, as we mentioned before, as partner categories. Let's say you wanted to target first adopters. These would be the techies. You can also overlay on top of that just 18 to 30
Раз, раз, раз. Так, опять у нас какая-то проблема с Мирополисом. Извиняемся за это. Nadav, here you go again. Sorry for that. Usually it works very well, but today something wrong with the system. Yeah, agree. So,
Hi everyone. Sorry, it seems that we not our day for luck with the system, I take it. So anyway, let's take kind of wrap this up for the last little bit, and maybe this is a little something very specific for each of you. So you have maybe I've won you over today with seeing Facebook is a wonderful platform to advertise. Maybe you're already doing it, and maybe some of you are much smaller developers, and some of you are much bigger. So there's a lot of great things I've said today that we've talked about different ways to target, different demographics to target specifically. But what should you do specifically, depending on each of you? So let's take two different examples. The first is, say you're a much smaller developer and you only have $5,000 to spend per month, and then a second is going to be a $30,000 per month that you're looking to spend. So if you're $5,000 per month, the best way that I can say it is you have one shot to try it. We would say define which country you want to target. I would only recommend one target one country. In general, we recommend no less than $5,000 per country when looking, because you want to maybe try a couple things and at least scale out to reach something. So choose one country. Research, it's always very important to research a lot ahead of time, but in this case, you don't really have any room for error. So making sure that you research all of your competitors, which ones are doing the most on Facebook, and targeting those competitors specifically is going to be very, very important. So making sure you've done as much research as possible and know that this is exactly what I want to do. And then, as I mentioned, focusing on your direct competitors, not trying, for instance, if you were in the United States and let's say you're Alibaba, you don't want to, or a competitor of Alibaba, let's say, you would want to target Alibaba directly. You would want to target Best Buy directly. You would want to try, excuse me, Amazon, and target Amazon directly as well on Facebook. So being able to focus on direct competitors versus maybe a few other things and other areas outside of just direct competitors. As we mentioned, there's two main places to target. There's a right-hand column, which is on the right side, and then there's the news feed, which is everything within the middle of Facebook. Within mobile, there's only the news feed. So that kind of means that this is irrelevant. But when you're looking, the difference essentially is going to be on the right-hand column, there's up to 2 ads that are shown at a time on the right-hand side. And those ads are going to be, Facebook has restricted them so the images are much bigger and they're more engaging. But even that being said, there tend to be blinders, is what we call them. When you're only looking at the news feed, you're only looking in the middle, so most people don't see those ads on the right-hand side. Therefore, they have a lower click-through rate, less engagement, but they're also cheaper. In the news feed, it's more expensive to reach those users, but the engagement is much, much higher. So we would recommend only right-hand column or only news feed, but the ability to do one or the other. And then scheduling, as we mentioned, day parting, focusing on the specific hours that you know. If you're a utility app, as we mentioned, after 8 p.m. is going to be very, very powerful. So focusing on that after 8 p.m. when you're spending most of your money. On the other side, looking at a 30K test, we would recommend up to 4 countries usually to target and to be able to test. Here you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of launching, testing, and scaling exactly what you're doing. It's not just a one shot to make sure that it's right immediately. Here you have the ability to target a little bit outside of your audience. So again, if you're a competitor, let's say of Alibaba, of Best Buy or Amazon, then you have the ability, let's say, to target Microsoft if you're selling the Surface or the new Nokia phone, to be able to target their type of users. So a little bit outside of your direct competitors, but still keep it obviously very relevant. Here you also have the ability to A/B test different creatives. This is what we talked a lot in terms of different borders on the images themselves, and to be able to see which images are working the best and to try different images and not just making sure that the first images you upload are the only ones that you're going to do. And lastly is going to be refreshing images, and that's going to be basically making sure that you don't hit that image exhaustion and uploading new images all the time. A 5K budget will go very, very quickly, and here you want to, with a 30K test, you have the ability to actually try new images and upload new ones as well. And then finally, the newsfeed is where we would definitely recommend to only focus on. As we mentioned, it's more expensive, but the engagement is much higher. So that is what we focus on there specifically. Lastly, I really hope you've enjoyed everything we've talked about today. Please stick around for questions in 1 minute. Just to add one last thing before there is, I hope you've really enjoyed everything that we've talked about today, that you've gotten an ability to learn a lot about Facebook advertising, hopefully some new things that you haven't heard before. We welcome you to join us and to grow with us here at Matomy, to understand how Facebook works, and for us to help you implement new Facebook abilities, both within targeting and ads. Our minimum test budget is $20,000, and we help our clients grow month after month in a very transparent way. We always work in a completely transparent agency model, which means that you see every single ad that we do, you see every single conversion and how everything is working. We can buy through your Facebook ad accounts or ours, so the information is always with you. Here are just a few of our partners who have had very successful campaigns with us and worked with us. As you can see, there's a variety between gaming to e-commerce and branding as well. And with that, I open the floor to questions. Thank you again very much. If you need to leave at this point, I recommend that you can shoot me an email here, nadav.w@matomy.com, or obviously Alex, his Russian is a little bit better than mine, so feel free to reach out to him as well with any questions you have. So I know that there were many eager questions before. If you can go ahead and type your questions in the chat box on the left side, then I can go ahead and answer them at this point. Thank you again, everyone, for coming, and let's hear your questions. Well, no one has typed any questions. I'm going to go up a little bit further because I know that there were previous questions that were asked. And I'm looking. I see that there were a few games that were. Okay, there's nothing there specific. Ah, there you go. Newsfeed ads. Are they controlled separately on desktop and mobile Facebook? So Facebook has actually changed their ability in terms of uploading ads and made them much, much more simple. There are lots of different ways that Facebook used to have in terms of different sizes that you needed to upload of the right-hand column versus newsfeed. And now you have the ability within Facebook to just upload one image, and then it will, at least for desktop, be able to be the same exact image on the right-hand column or within the newsfeed. And I'm pretty sure that it's the exact same within mobile as well. So you only need one image according to Facebook guidelines, and then it will automatically adjust that depending on where you select to put those images as well. So if it's within desktop or within mobile. So in terms of targeting between mobile and desktop, one of the beauties within Facebook and what makes it so unique is that there's no difference. There is exactly the same targeting both on desktop and on mobile. The only difference is in terms of tracking and seeing what happens down the line. And that's where specifically we talked about if you work on desktop, we can send you a specific JavaScript or server-to-server integration, JavaScript pixels that is. But if you work on mobile, then you would need to integrate not only the Facebook SDK, which permits you to exclude people who have already installed your app, but also to be able to track people through an MMP of what's happening down the line. But with regards to the ads themselves, the targeting is the same, and I'm very positive, 99% sure that the images are the same as well. There was another question here, and if you write your name, sorry, my Russian is not very good. If you write your name, then I can also respond to you by name as well. There was another question here saying, do we try mobile ads on Twitter and compare to Facebook? Yes, we do run mobile ads on Twitter as well. Twitter is very interesting. Very quickly, the answer to your question is that we see that Facebook works better. The problem with Twitter is that the ability to know who you are reaching or targeting is very limited. There's no ability to really have, within Facebook, when you have a profile, you know exactly how old that individual is. Oh, I see there are more questions here that just popped up. Within Facebook, you know, based on someone's profile, you know how old that user is, where they come from, what country they're in, male or female. You have the ability to see what their target people based on what their income is, what other things they tend to like. And with Twitter, that ability isn't there specifically. Twitter actually bases your targeting of gender based on the first name of the individual. So I can say that in Israel, where while a name like my own Nadav is very male, there are several names like Chen or Adi that could be male or could be female. So you don't really know who you're targeting. But where we see that Twitter works the best tends to be within brands or different things that are looking for organic growth and having people having different topics trend. So if you have a new line of clothes that are coming out, we see that Twitter can work very well, creating a buzz around something and having people retweeting that, and especially getting a celebrity endorsement or someone pretty famous to pick up your brand is very popular as well, and for them to tweet that as well. Without a doubt, the best example of that would be Ellen DeGeneres with the Samsung tweet with the Galaxy S5 and how that became very viral of her selfie, and then all the other selfies that emerged from that and people retweeting. So Twitter tends to be a little bit better when you're looking for viral and organic growth in terms of a buzz around your product. But when you're looking to the best type of targeting and definitely using third-party offline data, the ROI, without a doubt, is better on Facebook. The Facebook monthly active users for Russia and Facebook monthly active users for Russia, I'm not exactly sure what they are. I know that Russia tends to be a much smaller market. For instance, the United States is in 200 plus monthly active users, and I'm pretty sure Russia's in 20 to 30 million monthly active users. So 200 million is much, much larger. But if you shoot me an email afterwards, I'm more than happy to look that up specifically and let you know. In terms of what our minimum budget is, yes, $20,000. That is what our ad spend is specifically our fee, and the way that we work is in addition to that, and you're more than happy to reach out to Alex or myself to discuss that in addition. But what's included in the amount and the way that we work within our fee is everything all inclusive. We work with you in a very transparent manner. You have a dedicated account manager from my team who will work with you all the time, 24/7, to make sure that you are happy not only with the service, but how we are scaling up your product, how we are working with you. You have the ability to see every conversion rate, every targeting, every single thing that we're doing. And of course, that includes our graphic design studio. So our budget when you work with us is completely inclusive of every single thing that we do. So hopefully that answers your question. Please reach out to either Alex or myself with any more questions you have. Alex, if you can write your email there as well, so people can reach out to you with any questions if they prefer to speak in Russian. More than happy to reach out to Alex for that specifically. Oh, sorry. Here we take. Which creatives would you recommend for a social networking app? So there are lots of different things that we recommend. They're in general two different things that we would start with. One would be looking at just the in-app actions of what goes on in the app itself. And then the second is going to be, let's say, someone holding a real person holding a phone and playing with the app itself of some kind of aspect. So both from an inside the app as well as outside looking in. So looking in terms of those kind of things, general, if you send me what your app is after this, then I can definitely give you a little better idea for that specifically, as can Alex. But basically, what we recommend, and in general what Facebook recommends, is why is there a like button and there's never a unlike button or a dislike button? Is that Facebook tries to create a very positive, engaging environment for people to constantly not only engage with their products, but and your products, but also to share things that they like. So things that are positive. So keeping the mood upbeat, keeping happy people, images of good things that are going on within the app, or different ways that may be very unique about the app. We would definitely recommend to build those as well. And then obviously, as we mentioned before, try different borders to A/B test the different borders and see where that is. So please feel free to reach out either to myself or Alex, and we can definitely recommend some more answers for you and specifics about that. So Maria, thank you for your question. Her question is, how many daily installs at a CPA, I'm assuming that's a cost per install, CPI, of $1.50 max are possible from Facebook in Russia? Thank you very much for this question. And this is something that we really like to focus on. Our focus is not looking at $1.50 max CPI, but rather what the in-app action is, what the users are doing with your app that you're looking to scale up to. So Maria, if users, and I know that there were some questions, sorry. Here's my email. You're more than welcome to send me an email for anyone who has. But Maria, this is a great question, and in general, it's difficult for me to see what your app is, since I don't know. But what we focus on is less of the engagement that happens on the install. Obviously, a CPI is important. But if your users are paying, if the correct user who will spend $3 or $5 within your game will obviously cost more than a user who at $1.50 doesn't maybe monetize or only monetizes for $1. So to reach that $3 or that $5 user, you may have to spend more. And so if you're willing to spend $2, but those users are going to return on average $3, you're looking at 150% ROI. That's going to be something that's very powerful. Or if that users are spending $5, to then focusing on being willing to spend up to $4 to reach those type of users. The best users And our focus, again, is much less off the install and what happens, how much it costs for an install, although obviously minimizing that is very important, but making sure that the ROI, the long-term goal, is going to be there. So when you're really saying to yourself a max CPI of $1.50, you're willing to say, then I'm not willing to pay anything above that, correct? And therefore, it's very difficult. At first, maybe you can get an install for $1 or even $1.50 within Facebook on mobile. But the problem is that once you start to get the low-hanging fruit and you've acquired 50,000 users of the obvious type of users, to scale this more and more is going to be more expensive. Facebook is the premier channel for advertising. And I can tell you that in general, Facebook is more, in Russia is more expensive than that CPI, especially looking long term and spending $20,000-$50,000 a month, is that looking at what the actions are happening down the funnel and making sure that you are ROI positive to reach those really good users and focusing and scaling those back to an ad level. So this is really what we focus in terms of targeting and in terms of pixeling everything back to the specific ad. So Maria, if you send me an email with your app, what I can do is I can have my team take a look at it specifically and tell you what we think the ROI, the CPI will be moving forward, and in terms of how to scale it properly and how to bring and build a campaign that is going to bring the best users and the correct users to your app specifically or your game. So Maria, please send me an email about that specifically, and we're more than happy to continue talking. Elena asks, what is the average CPI that we see for casino games in the US Android? This is a very difficult question to answer, assuming, well, this is mobile, obviously, is it's Android. Android in general, and it's not always true, but in general tends to be a little bit cheaper than iOS, but it depends on the game. It depends how new is the game, what kind of intellectual property do you have, and that specifically is, do you have the rights, are you Caesar's Casino with their famous slots that they have and casino games that they have, or do you just have ones that you've made yourself? Do you have, how many users do you already have? So these are a lot of things that play into it. I can tell you that we work with almost all of the major casino games on Facebook, and installs may start as low for a brand new game that they launch, may start as low as on Android, usually around $1.50 to the $2 mark within the US, and then are going to scale to usually $5, $6, $7 even after several months of spending significant amounts of money. It also depends a lot. If you're spending $5,000 a month, then it will be much cheaper. But if you're going to spend $50,000 or several $100,000 a month, as many of our bigger partners do, then the CPI is going to increase significantly. But within the first month, as long as your CPI is in the $1.50 to $2 range for a new casino game in the US on Android, you're probably doing something pretty well. Fotzane, thank you very much about the, I'm glad I was happy to help you with Twitter. Okay, so with regards to, Photozine, with regards to the average CPI for mobile apps, if they're payable, so if it's a paid app and not something that is free, it's very, very difficult. We recommend running a lot. There are different types of bidding methods on Facebook. There's CPC, there's OCPM, there's CPA, which is a new type of bidding, and specifically within a paying app that's not a free app, I would recommend in general running on OCPM, which is going to give you the best CPIs that you're going to see, but it's generally very expensive. You may be break even at that point, but it's going to be quite expensive because if your app is $1, then you're going to pay 30% of that, obviously, to Google Play or or the App Store, then you're looking at, let's say, 60 to 70%, 70 cents. Getting an install on Facebook at scale for those amounts is going to be pretty difficult to do. So in general, we don't work with paying apps, apps that you have to pay. We work with freemium apps or apps that are free to play, and then in-app actions after that. And so we would recommend that. Well, I would recommend to work on OCPM to try to scale as much as possible, but there will be a point at which you won't be able to get the CPI lower than what you are taking home for each of that. And that's why, in general, most apps are going to moving to the free apps. And one of the main reasons for that is that the conversion rate of someone clicking an ad and then having to pay right away, having never used the app, is very, very low. But someone clicking on the ad and going to the App Store, seeing a free app, well, I can download it for free and then I can see what it is as well. So with that, unfortunately, our time is up. I wanted to thank you very much for your attention, for listening all the way through, for a couple of the technical problems that we had. You've been very patient. Please email either myself, Nadav, period, w@matomy.com. I'll write it one more time. And Alex, if you can write yours as well. Feel free to reach out to either of us with specific questions and additional questions that you have. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn to connect and continue the conversation, whatever is easiest for you. Once again, thank you very much for everyone joining us here on the call today. I hope you learned a lot, and best of luck with all of your Facebook campaigns. Take care.